So as always, these are recorded. If you kind of show up late or not able to join, obviously we'll be on this call right now, but we'll make sure we get these sent out via email within the next day, so you can go back and review it. And then obviously we'll have these put into our partner portal. If you're not in the portal, obviously you definitely should inquire about that and join there. So from a RapidScale side, just to kind of help paint the picture, and we'll get into some of the profiles of the financial space as well. But really, when you're looking at our typical customer profile, and again, we're a managed cloud computing company. So essentially, what that means is we're focusing a lot around production environments, and also kind of some of the other over-the-top services that customer might need around managed services, things such as patching and updates. Move that changes, some of the sustainability stuff that happens throughout the day. We kind of handle that, and we're built out to handle that ourselves. Now, when you're looking at the profile of one of our customers, there's a gap there of 25 to 2,000. I say kind of more day to day. It's more around kind of that 25 to 500 is what we see a lot of from our partner community bringing it to us. And very, very similar to why they're bringing you guys in to work with them to be an expert on things that they don't know. They're bringing us in to kind of be an expert, to get them to the cloud and then handle some of those workloads. Typically there's going to be some form of application delivery that goes on here. See if we're seeing echo. Obviously delivering applications. Production environments are all about delivering applications, core line of business applications, hosting them, moving them off site, and then delivering those out. And then obviously the last one is any customer that's facing any type of compliance or regulatory restrictions. Healthcare with HIPAA was an early adopter. Now the financial space is coming on with their list of regulations, as well as the legal and the manufacturing. So financial. This space was one that had come on kind of late. It was a little bit later adopting than some of the others, some of the other verticals. Manufacturing was pretty early on. Healthcare was certainly a leader in the space when it came to outsourcing and managed cloud. And the financial was one that kind of came on late. And a lot of this was around the lack of knowledge and understanding around what the cloud, what a hosted model could actually do for them. They felt that more of a legacy technology was our legacy mindset with servers in-house was the way to do it. Now what we're able to kind of understand, what they're understanding now, is how more of the cloud is actually able to leverage that kind of legacy technology or any type of existing ways of doing things, and helping to enable that to grow. So again, what we're seeing from the financial space, regional banks, financial brokers, financial institutions, from small to mid-market size, small IT staffs, they're coming over really in waves, and a lot of it is around the Citrix or the VMware and desktop as a service in general, because they're truly seeing the full breadth of features that are coming with it. One of the most important ones being the security and locking down the data, but as well as the mobility piece to it to be able to expand on their business. So at a high level, the cloud is a foundational element for digital change, right? So we're thinking about, what that means is it's going to enable a business to change the way they're doing things for the better. So from a technology perspective, within a bank or within a financial institution, the cloud can help the financial organizations transform themselves into a digital business, strengthen, their enterprise security and compliance, which is huge for them. Obviously reduce their infrastructure footprint, which we're all seeing how that's, getting those servers, off premises or out of the data center is something that's good for them. And then also to introduce more automation to deliver improved efficiencies, and in some cases some cost savings. So if we kind of look at the overarching kind of features that technology bringing, it's really just around, enabling that business to get better, to be more agile, and to grow. Now, from a business perspective, which is really kind of what we look at, right? And we'll kind of talk about above and below the line here in a little bit. From a business perspective and the business drivers, there's lots of ways it's going to help as well. So for one, it can help companies increase their agility and speed to seize new market opportunities and protect current revenue streams. That's going to be really prevalent within, some regional banks that are competing against some of the big boys. Obviously to have that agility and have that cutting edge technology to be able to get in there and do that. And also be able to respond to a changing business environment and adapt quickly and rapidly scale, right? No pun intended, to meet the organization's changing business needs. And those changing business needs can come from the top down, or they can just come from general, organic change within the environment and within their space in general. So if we kind of look at how that lines up, right? So, the technology is not just something that, a lot of times there could be a problem or an event that's going to be triggering some type of conversation or an opportunity for us to go in there and talk to them. But, at a high level, when you're having a business conversation, understanding what they're trying to do, what are some of their challenges that they're seeing and how the business can kind of help them do that. So one of the things that we've seen in the past here with some of the customers that we work with is around some type of mainframe dependency. So there's a lot of core applications, kind of mainstream core applications out there. I'll use FIS as one because it's relevant to one of the case studies that we're going to review here. So, they require like a managed router on site, right? So, in this case, the application is sitting within their infrastructure. There's a managed router, in which case you're connecting. That's how they're connecting to that application. So for some businesses that don't exactly have any type of forward thinking or true kind of talent within their IT organization, they could see that as a dependency to have it, have their gear on site and access it. In this case, whenever you start talking about virtual desktops and whether it's Citrix or VMware, that doesn't matter, whatever delivery protocol, we're now kind of talking about how we can put that managed router within the infrastructure, within our cloud, right, within the data center, and then push those applications out. The other thing that we're seeing that's really getting big is around the automation and the reporting. So I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with regulatory technology or what they call RegTech, which is kind of a new way for businesses to within the financial industry to utilize information technology and really enhance processes. So an example of this would be from a reporting perspective. You look at file integrity management, log management, log monitoring, those types of granular reports that are needed to be provided by businesses to whoever they're being reporting to, right, from a regulatory perspective. That's information they're going to have to show them. And that's not very easy to do, right? It's not just something that you can just pull off the OS and show to them. It's something that actually has to be put in place. So for us, we're seeing this more often. And really and just to kind of help explain, if you guys aren't really familiar with like file integrity and log monitoring, is this would be able to go back and provide a report of what the end users were doing on a day in and day out basis to see, when files were changed, when they were deleted, to go back and have that kind of snapshot. Also, whenever you're bringing in some type of software to do this, so in our case, this would be our SIM, which is our Security Information Event Monitoring, which is a pure play cybersecurity, but it's got very granular reporting tools, the way it ties into the environment and does the analytics and the reporting. This allows them to be able to basically present to whoever they're reporting to, whoever's coming in and doing an audit, provide them with this detailed information in a nice document for them to have. So that's a big driving force, right? And people need data. I think we all see it across the space today. I don't care what industry you're in, what vertical you're in. Mergers, acquisitions are big. Everybody just cares about data. They want to see data. So, when you're in this cloud-based environment and you have this kind of flexibility to these tools and these resources and to kind of integrate within this stuff, you're now allowing yourself and your business to be able to provide that reporting and thus have more of a transparent picture under the hood. So opportunities created by the cloud. And this is a cloud, more so the cloud creating opportunities, I would say, because Again, if you look at what is the benefits of a financial business moving to the cloud, you're going to see a lot of similarities across all verticals with what they're doing, but there just could be kind of different avenues within that. So from the agility perspective, being able to grow, being able to scale, that's super important. I think we know that. It's kind of goes without saying. CapEx, OpEx, going above the line, right? Above the line, below the line. Above the line would be kind of your CFO, COO, right? The operational expenditure is very, very nice for them. One, because, the cost predictability is, built into it, but also because, as a bank, they have people they have to report to. They have, a lot of people they have to report to. So the more they can have that fixed number, the better. Scope creep is not a good thing, or any type of unexpected large capital expenditures is not great for banks. And so they're seeing how this OpEx model is really helping them to grow their business and to obviously stabilize things. Operational control. So depending on the bank or the financial institution and what they're doing. Some would say it's around if you're third partying out your IT services, there may be some restrictions on the access and the control that you have, which can be slightly concerning to somebody that's trying to run their IT staff. So whenever you're moving into more of a cloud model, you're giving them the tools and the resources that they need with typically a better front-end technology, or I guess back-end technology would be the way to say it. So they can go in there, control it, and feel like that they're being involved with that, and they can have the access to change things as they need to. Security is massive. It used to be, kind of some of the early financial conversations. There was a lot of questions or a perception from the space that the cloud is insecure or that breaches only happen within the cloud. So, one of the things that we always were, constantly doing in these days, we're not really doing as much. We're more talking about what security practices and what kind of controls we can bring in, as opposed to explain to them why we're bringing them in, right? But early on, that was a fear that they had, because they were just used to doing things the same way. But I think it's all very obvious, by now that we can see that a cloud environment is going to be more secure than doing things, the traditional way, which would be on premise. Obviously, the levels of encryption, where the data is actually sitting, the level of redundancy behind that data, the ability to go back, the reporting on it, the security that you can bring in over the top, all those things are going to enhance security. And then if you take it to the next level around their production and where they're accessing their data and they're accessing their applications, if we're talking about desktop as a service, we're talking about an image, a truly locked down production environment that can restrict the ability to move files outside of the organization, restrict the ability to bring in files that are not needed, right, or bring in data that's not needed. So you kind of give them that pure play, tight-knit, secure production environment. Second to that, if there's, historically a lot of companies, you come to work, especially with financial, you come to work and then you go home and you're done, and not really much work could be done outside of the office because there was restrictions around the accessibility of the data. Obviously, with desktops as a service and virtual desktops, that's now enabling them to be able to have that secure environment to work outside of the office, to be able to take it home. Typically, we're going to put some type of two-factor authentication in place whenever they're accessing it outside the network. And that's to kind of protect who can access it outside the network and ensure that it is them. But there's a lot of ways for us to be very confident, to deliver a confident solution for them to be able to have that increased level of security without having to give up any type of bending on any type of existing practices. And then obviously the elasticity. Banks, financial institutions in general go through peaks and valleys, right? Not all of them, but some of them. So, that's a very nice feature for them to have. So we have a customer based out of the Mid-Atlantic in Washington, D.C. that we'll talk about. And this was, they were kind of an early customer for us. They're a regional bank. They had 3 locations. I think it was roughly 80 employees. When we first were brought in with our partner to this company we were talking to, was a newer IT guy. And they kind of had, it was a very stagnant business. There was the desire from the C-suite and from the leaders within the organization to get the bank to the next level. But they felt like they were very stagnant and kind of pigeonholed. They did have a third-party MSP that kind of handled everything for them, and wasn't really bringing in any type of newer, more cutting-edge frontline technology. So they were doing, they were doing RDS was actually what they were doing at the time, which is a former virtual desktop, but with some limitations on that. So, and then really the thing that was a big driver for them was actually the cost, which isn't really always something that we really, care to really touch on. Because I think if you guys have been in this space and sold these cloud technologies, there's not always a strong, on paper total cost of ownership that goes into it, especially if you're bringing in any type of new technologies that would be essentially more expensive than what they were doing before. But, they weren't really happy with going. The support had kind of fallen off, very traditional model there. So, and they also had FIS. So I mentioned FIS earlier as a core line of business application. FIS is a software company that offers lots of different types of softwares for the financial industry. So in this case, again, mentioned kind of the managed router. I think everybody understands how networking works here, right? So they had a managed router on site with their local infrastructure. And then, the company FIS was hosting their application. They then connect to that application through that managed router, and that obviously allowed for them FIS to kind of control that. Now, when we're looking at moving all their infrastructure off site, that's obviously a piece that we had to account for. Very similar to dropping a node for MPLS into a data center, into the like a cross connect at the meeting room. Very similar for here. We put the managed router in there. That way we could connect to the application so they could access that. The other piece to this, and this was kind of one of the early ones that raised my awareness around and started to foresee what was going to be happening with the analytics side and the data reporting, was there, they basically said we have requirements around, file integrity management and log monitoring. And this was kind of when, I mentioned the reg tech earlier, the regulatory technology. This is and I wouldn't say it's more as an idea, but a standardized process that a lot of these financial institutions are moving to so that they can provide this reporting whenever they are audited, whether it's a PCI audit or whoever it is, they can come in here and actually provide that data. So this was something that we saw, and we obviously had a tool in place that we were able to do this with. So we layered it in there. Now, the cool thing about that piece was, I think it was probably mid last year, they came in and had an audit from PCI. So I mentioned earlier about how we're able to compile the data and the documents to give it to the auditors for them to go out there and report. So one thing that we've seen about whether it's HIPAA or it's PCI or whoever it is, the cleaner, more well-organized the data, the less chance they've got of coming back and asking questions. So in this case, we provide, if you give to them a bunch of crap all over the place and they got to go and sit down there and organize it all, they're probably going to get pretty grim in their audit. But the fact that we're able to provide this in a nice, well-organized document for them has certainly helped their process. Now, through this conversation, after the audit, when I was talking to the IT director, I'm like, tell me about what you're seeing from, 10 years ago, an audit 10 years ago to now. What is the difference in the questions look like, and what are they looking for, and how's it evolving? He basically told me that the audits have changed more around kind of not so much around the internal processes, but where their data is hosting, how they're accessing their data, what type of standardized, what type of reporting do they have in place, what type of security do they have in place. So these auditing companies and these compliance companies are basically recognizing how these businesses are moving to technology, but they're also slightly kind of, pushing that there too, because they're saying that, this is how you're going to be getting this data for us. This is how it's going to be best done. So it's kind of it was an interesting conversation to see how that space has pivoted. So back to the deal, above and below line. So below line again was the IT director. We know what he needed. He wasn't really liking the level of support that he had. He had a desire to move to a more forward cutting edge technology, in this case, desktop as a service or Citrix. And then when she got above the line, there's the CFO and the CEO were really the two driving factors. So from the CFO, the financials were actually pretty easy on this one because there was a little bit of, overcharging, right, for lack of a better word, on some things, and a lot of nickel and diming and scope creep. So that really wasn't that challenging to do. And also it was actually nice for them because we were able to kind of explain and show the predictability around the per user cost so that they could see that. So if they were looking to grow, and they were looking to grow some, not a lot, but they were looking to grow, we were able to show them that predictability around the per users and what their technology is going to cost from a hosting perspective. Now, the COO was a different level. That was a different perspective. The due diligence that we went through with them, being that they had a security background, was very stringent. I mean, they were visiting data centers as well and getting deep into the requirements and what was expected from that. So, from our end, when we were talking with him, not only was he driving the conversation because he needed it, but we also knew when we were positioning this stuff to them early on, we knew, what avenues to hit with each one. We knew that when the CFO was in the room, we were going to talk about the predictable costs around moving from a CapEx to OpEx, more standardized with that end. And then when the CEO was there, we were getting into, obviously the operational benefits of the business and how it's going to help the business in general with this technology, but also, the security and the measures that go into place with that. So within any deal, that's obviously very important. A lot of the basic network connections are going to happen kind of below the line. The more disruptive technologies, moving to the clouds, I mean, UCaaS, I guess, you can categorize in that as well. When you start getting into true business benefits as opposed to just, kind of cost saving stuff, having that conversation with that person, understanding what they're looking for out of a solution and from a provider is going to be huge in driving that deal forward and essentially getting it done. So just to wrap this up with the case study, what they were to accomplish. So first of all, we got them on a full desktop as a service, full Citrix, all managed on the back end. We were handling it, deploying out, went very smooth. We also did stand up a secondary environment for them that was highly available in our Dallas data center. So obviously leveraging Zerto, meaning that if something were to happen to the primary data center, we would then fail them over to the secondary data center because redundancy was something that was required within their business. And then obviously we took over, added Alien Vault for the SIM, for the monitoring, as well as to give them that cybersecurity element within their, behind the firewall, and then took over the email into the 365 and things of that nature. So very, very full, a full breadth of services from us. Which was good in what they were looking for because they didn't want to have to go out and get, let me park my applications here, let me go get my security here, let me get my 365 here. They wanted to have a for lack of a better term, one throat to choke, in which case we were able to provide it. And then we're still continuing to come in there and have conversations with them and bring in new technologies. So that kind of wraps up my spiel on the financial industry. Do we have, Summer, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. So one that just came in is, are there SLA terms with regards to a security breach?
That's a very, very, very loaded question. And it depends on the breach. It depends on how the breach happened. So I'll follow up. So write that down. Let me follow up on the side because there's some information that I'll send on that because it's a very loaded question. When you're looking at like a SIM perspective, there's time to recognize any type of malicious activity. There's from a DDoS mitigation perspective, it's catching. So that's a very loaded question that I'll kind of follow up with on the side with some documentation to kind of explain that better.
Okay. Another one. What are some good probing questions I can ask my financial client to get the cloud conversation started? So
I guess it depends on the financial industry that they're in, right? If it's a bank, probably the first probing thing is, what are you guys doing, right? How are you locking down your environment? What does the security practice look like? Those are all kind of good things, right? What is your growth your technology growth plan. Because really, when you look at a firm, a probing question, you want to understand their culture, right? Are they rethinking their culture? Are they kind of status quo? Are they more forward thinking? Are they cloud ready, right? And then, that's kind of up to you to determine. Now, it's going to be I'd say a probing question is kind of it's kind of a very, generic thing. What is your cloud strategy, right? I mean, I think about $1 for every time I said that. But you just got to understand their business and what matters to them, because everybody's going to be different. So if it's, if they have a third party that's doing a lot of managed IT support for them, are you guys happy with that level of support? Are they bringing in any type of new technologies that are becoming available out there that potentially help your business? How are you handling security on a day-to-day basis? Do you have, are you familiar with the regulatory technology or reg tech? Is that something that you guys are looking to standardize within your business? And how are you doing that? So, I mean, those are probably some of the higher, high level questions that I would say, but really it's, gauging their willingness to move to new technologies and kind of advance their business. And here's the thing, banks are doing it. I mean, everybody does online banking. I mean, don't kid yourself. That's a cloud technology. So same thing, Venmo. Anytime you order something on an app, right? Whether it's in, Uber Eats or you're sending money from PayPal or Venmo, that's all essentially tied back into the banking and cloud technology in some form or fashion. So they're all doing it, right? But are they doing it from an operations perspective within their employees? And are they giving themselves the best advantage to compete with the enterprise and the big boys out there in the world if they are a regional bank? Are they giving themselves the opportunity to compete with those companies?
Awesome. And I know we've hit our time, but another final good question just came in, and then we'll wrap it up. So what do you say when an IT director at a bank says, not interested, our client's data is safer here than in any cloud?
Explain. I'd have them explain. Like how, and sorry, I didn't mean to be passive aggressive there. I would ask him why he thinks that, and explain to me how he thinks that the data is more safe there than it would be sitting within a tier 3 or better data center on enterprise class technology, leveraging government grade encryption. I would understand why he thinks that, because that is a legacy kind of mindset. And they're typically, the cloud is going to be more secure. Now, the other thing I would say, if you started to run into that type of that type of response or question to you, I would just also kind of go, let's go above the line and let's figure out what's important to their business, right? Okay, your data is more secure there, I get that, but what are what are the goals of the business? What is the leadership driving towards to take this business to the next level? Because there's going to be limitations with doing it on site. I mean, first of all, I think we all understand what those are. But that's what I would just have him kind of more elaborate and, see if he can explain to you why he thinks it's more secure there, because he's probably going to run out of things to say after like 2 sentences.
All right. And that's it. We're good to go.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for jumping on. I'll follow up on the SLA question with you, Summer. We'll get that out. But you guys got any questions, obviously let us know. We'll get this, we'll get an email sent out to everybody with the recording. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. I'm always happy to help. It's a good space, right? It's a sticky space. These guys don't move too much, right? So you can get in there and obviously bring in the right technologies, then you can have a customer for a long time and kind of grow that wallet share with them. So hope you guys all have a great day, great afternoon, great month. Looking forward to hopefully seeing everybody soon. And thank you again for your time today.